Yesterday, he told his confidants that he will resign. Period. That's it. It's over. And now they're just preparing the departure, folks. I just can't take it anymore. I can't listen to this anymore. Germany, the government is finally sitting down now and getting the reforms underway. And now hold on tight, it's finally happening really with full force. And I'm not kidding you, and they're not kidding you either, and they're not lying to you. They're finally setting up a working group now to figure out how things could move forward here. That's what I mean, folks. Who still believes that? That's what Markus Söder said yesterday. Now they're finally setting up a working group which will, well, until the summer break, yeah, it's mid-May, there are only 2 more sessions, finally gets the necessary reforms underway, which Lars Klingbeil still hasn't put down in writing to this day, where nothing is known yet about what these reforms will look like. Of course, I've already received them and they were leaked. I'll show them to you. Yeah. This is the front side. This is the back side. This is what the reforms look like for Germany, and we're going to take a look at them today. And if you want to support the channel, I would really appreciate a like, subscription, and some hype. Roll the clip.
Clip, that's a step forward. That's the rather obvious analysis from Markus Söder, the Minister-President of Bavaria. And to achieve this, so shortly before the summer break, he wants to set up a kind of new working group, a new way of working, by saying that unions and employers should be brought to the table.
When will someone finally tell these people who actually votes in Germany? It's not the unions, it's not the working groups, it's not the members of a party who vote for parties in Germany. The people do. And instead of listening to the people for once, no, now they're going back to those close to the SPD and those close to the CDU. They bring in henchmen who now explain to them what's best for a party, but not, for example, how to stop the decline of the party, and to do that as quickly as possible. The good old lady SPD is now struggling with the 10% threshold, and the good old lady CDU is almost, well, split up.
First of all, we have to say that we have difficult conditions. Keyword, war in Iran, exploding energy prices. That, of course, unsettles the population as well. And it's clear that we have a lot of tasks ahead of us. For many years before that, the necessary reforms were not carried out for a variety of reasons.
Yeah, multiple crises. Every country in Europe can grow and generate economic growth. Almost everyone, we're at the bottom, only we can't do it. We're the only country that keeps using the crises as an excuse, that constantly has to take on ultra-high debt and then tries to sell it to us as a success. And at the same time, we have a propaganda machine that calls itself public broadcasting, and it constantly bombards us. And now more and more people are saying, hey, I don't believe any of this stuff you're telling us anymore. And they're turning away from politics. Who would be surprised that, well, the CDU is still at 17% and the CSU is at 5%. And well, we all see where the SPD stands. These parties are finished and no longer useful. And all they can do now is say, okay, until the next election, we will still introduce reforms to protect the unions, only to then go under completely and make this country, well, ungovernable. Or maybe to make it governable after all, so that one party or another here in Germany will probably get an absolute majority. If we add black and blue together, as of today, we have an absolute majority in Germany. If we add black, red, and green together, we no longer have a majority since this morning.
I think we've already accomplished quite a lot in the past year. Think about all these things like the special fund, the 500 billion, but also the compromise on the issue of military service. These things aren't easy and have been debated among the public.
That almost makes me tear my hair out. No, I can't say it here because otherwise I'll start to explode. 500 billion, and soon we won't even be able to repay the interest on it. By 2027 at the latest, there will be huge problems here in Germany because we won't be able to pay back the interest anymore, Mr. Mersch. That thing with the armed forces law, yeah, quite a nice story. What did the Bild newspaper report again? Corruption in Pistorius's ministry. Now, Pistorius goes ahead and suspends the promotions, except for politicians close to the SPD, or rather for people who are in the SPD. You call this, how should I put it? I call it corruption and trashy behavior. I really have to say it like that. And that's what's bad, what they're trying to sell us as something good. And yes, probably this policy just needs to be explained better, because by now every German realizes that we actually need the path they're taking in England. Yes, like in England. Keir Starmer told his confidants yesterday that he will resign. Period. That's it. The end. And now they're preparing Keir Starmer's departure, which takes about 1 to 2 months in England. That's exactly what we urgently need in Germany as well.
And now it's about the questions, for example, what happens next with pensions, what happens next with income tax, where we want to ease the burden on middle and lower income earners. All these questions are on the table and we want to solve them now.
Listen up, problem solved. I can solve this for you instantly right now. All climate projects are cancelled overnight. The state of emergency is declared in Germany. Then all projects abroad will be put on hold for now. Nothing goes abroad anymore. The bureaucracy will be absolutely cut down. And the welfare state will be cut down with a chainsaw for now. And that will continue until the day when we, let's say, have acclimatized again. Until we're back in the black. And at the same time, every single cent that goes abroad must be stopped immediately. Immediately. All subsidies, for example, for wind turbines, photovoltaics, and so on, must be reduced to a minimum. I just saved Germany. I have just freed Germany from all evil at this moment with this cross-subsidization. And now we can move into a future that will actually bring a golden, wonderful future to us, our workers, our retirees, and the people who live here. And yes, we will have some pain for only 3 to 4 years because we can pay everything back directly. That's political chemistry, but then you just shouldn't oppose it so strongly. And that's exactly what we need here in Germany. Concrete action. People are ready. People here in Germany are ready for reforms. They are ready to make sacrifices themselves, but what they want to see is the whole bureaucracy being scaled back. That politicians no longer get pay raises. Then people are also willing to make sacrifices themselves. Then, for example, retirees are also willing to maybe receive basic income support for a few years at first. We are all ready for reforms. But then not a single cent should go abroad or be wasted on climate nonsense. And at the same time, a state of emergency must be declared in this country. Then everyone knows, hey, it's down to the wire. If we want to save things now, then we all have to stick together. And then they would actually have unity, which, by the way, would also be the death sentence for the SPD and the CDU.
They have to argue destructively, that's part of politics. But people need to see that in the end there is a result and that there is a compromise that hopefully everyone can live with.
What do we see? There are arguments, sparks are flying. Now they're even building a blood wall. Yes, it's no longer just a firewall. It's a blood wall that's being built. And then we hear, well, our freedom is being further restricted for the sake of democracy. More than half of the people here in Germany no longer want to express what they think. That's what we're being fed. And then people are surprised when, like yesterday, they read that the AfD is almost at 30% and the CDU, CSU at 22%. Very narrowly, really just barely. The CSU still has 5% of the votes here in Germany. If they're gone, then the CDU will be exactly where the SPD and the Greens are. And the blue bar will rise exponentially fast. Of course, that's not what they want. And that's exactly why I have the feeling that at the moment they're not conducting any polls in Bavaria at all.
Mr. Misch, so where are the compromises? Now it's the introduction of a tax on the rich. On the other hand, now comes Union Parliamentary Group leader Spahn, your counterpart from the CDU-CSU. Today he said protections against dismissal must be relaxed.
That's right, I say we have three parties.
That's politics. Nothing gets implemented. Nothing can be implemented. Just imagine, yes, that maybe Saxony-Anhalt could fall, and at the same time Mecklenburg-Western Pomerania could also fall. What would that be? That would be the downfall for Germany, for everything, for our civilization, for our culture. Or the salvation, I don't know. You have to decide that a bit for yourselves. Feel free to write it down below what you think about it. But the fact is, for the SPD, the fall of Mecklenburg-Vorpommern and Saxony-Anhalt with an AfD-only government would be yes. That would be unthinkable. Just imagine what would happen in the Bundesrat then. There would only be AfD members sitting there from 2 federal states. And that would then spill over as well to Lower Saxony, to North Rhine-Westphalia. And all the state lists have already been set up, and all the politicians who have to make money from it, and their own people who they're still trying to promote somehow in the Bundeswehr. That's why they don't promote Bundeswehr soldiers anymore, so they can push their own party cronies up. You understand what I'm getting at, right? That would be a loss of power at the highest level. The SPD could never allow that after years of running this country into the ground together with the CDU. Never.